We're at the start of the biggest shift in online business since social media. Everyone's rushing to launch an AI agency, but most are setting themselves up to fail from day one. They're mistaking fast projects for a real company. I know this because I've scaled my agency past $100,000 a month in client revenue, and I'm still running these systems every single day. When you operate at that level, you see the patterns, the same mistakes repeat, and they always end the same way. And that's why, if you're thinking about starting an AI agency right now, this is the make or break moment. I'll show you 5 shifts you have to make if you want a real shot at surviving. And if you get them right, you'll have the foundation to scale far beyond what most agencies even imagine. And stick around until the end, because I'll share the piece almost every agency ignores. And without it, even if you sign clients, you won't last 6 months. Now, let's get into the first shift. And this one is simple, but it changes everything. You have to move from selling features to selling outcomes. Think about it. Right now, most agencies are still running around pitching AI automation like that phrase means anything by itself. But here's the real question you need to ask. Does a client actually care that you're using AI? Or do they care whether it brings in more revenue, cuts their costs, or make their life easier? The answer is obvious. They only care about the outcome. And if you're still leading with the tool, you've already lost. Let me make it concrete. Take lead qualification. You could say we use AI to score and sort your inbound leads, but the way you should say it is we'll cut out 70% of wasted sales calls by only sending your reps leads that are actually ready to buy, saving them time and raising closing rates. Or take onboarding as an example. You could say we automate onboarding and emails and forms, but what actually lands is we'll slash churn by making new clients feel taken care of from day one. Everything they need is in their inbox the moment they pay, no manual work from your team. I mean, it's easy to see the difference. It's the same system, but a totally different story. And here's why this matters. Most agencies fail because they lead with the tool. They sell the shiny automation instead of fixing the process. And when you layer tech on top of chaos, it doesn't create value, it just creates more chaos. The ones who win, flip it. They start by asking, where's the money leaking? Where's the time being wasted? And only then do they bring in AI to plug those gaps. And that's the filter you need as an agency. Every time you're tempted to pitch a feature, stop and ask yourself, how does this drive a business outcome? More leads, less churn, faster hiring, lower CAC. If you can't point to one of those, it's just noise. And if you can, now you've got something a business will actually buy. So this first shift is non-negotiable. A client doesn't care about AI scoring leads. They care about that their reps stop wasting half their weeks on calls that never close. They don't care about automated onboarding emails. They care that new clients feel taken care of and instantly stick around longer. What they actually buy is the transformation, more revenue, less churn, and a system that pays for itself inside a quarter. But here's the catch. Even the best offer won't save you if it never reaches anyone. And once you start selling outcomes instead of tools, your offer finally lands in an email, a DM, a call. That brings us to the second shift, moving from borrowed demand to a predictable pipeline. Right now, most AI agencies are all hunting in the same crowded places: Fiverr, Upwork, Freelancer.com. Survivors flip this. They don't wait for scraps on job boards. They build their own sales engines, outbound, inbound, authority. That way conversations never stop and growth isn't left to chance. Now here's why this shift is so important. Marketplaces seem easy, but the upside of that lower barrier is also the downside. If it takes 5 minutes to apply for a job, you're not competing locally, you're competing globally against providers who can undercut you simply because their cost of living is lower. And when the only way to win is by being cheaper or faster, you're not seen as strategic, you're treated like a commodity. And even if you do win the bid, most of those projects are one-off, great for testing the waters, terrible for predictability. You finish the work, get paid once, and you're right back to square one chasing the next gig. It's a treadmill that keeps you stuck at zero momentum. And here's the real kicker. You're not building equity in your own brand. The platform owns the audience, the trust, the traffic. If your account gets throttled or banned, your entire pipeline disappears overnight. That's why agencies that survive make the shift early. They stop relying on borrowed demand and start creating their own. When you build the pipeline, you own the conversations, you control the timing, the framing, and eventually the price. So if not chasing opportunities on job boards, what should you do? Well, instead of sitting around waiting for a post to pop up and fighting 50 other bidders, you should actually build your own pipeline. You decide who to talk to, when to talk to them, and on what terms. Cold calling works, LinkedIn DMs work, even X messages can work. But the real play here is cold email. Email is the one channel that actually scales, and if you know how to automate and personalize, it becomes unstoppable. You could spend weeks duct taping a system together, testing tools, fixing mistakes, or you could skip all that and plug straight into the exact workflows I already use. These are the same automations that scaled my agency past 100,000 a month, sending thousands of hyper-personalized emails every single day directly to decision makers. If you want that same consistency, never worrying about where your next client comes from, the link's in the description. Now, outbound is how you get started. It's the fastest way to create conversations on demand, but it's not the end game. The next step is inbound, building authority so clients start coming to you. That means posting your wins, dropping screenshots, walking people through the workflows you've built. Because when you do that, you move from chasing opportunities to actually attracting them yourself. And that's when your brand becomes the pipeline. That's the move from borrowed demand to owned demand. So once you own the pipeline, you're not fighting for scraps anymore, you're creating the demand. But even with a steady flow of leads, most AI agencies still hit the same wall. They sell one-off projects, build a workflow, hand it over for a quick fee and move on to the next. But that's not a business, that's just glorified freelancing. So the third shift is moving from one-off projects to recurring systems. If every month starts back at zero, you never build momentum. You're just freelancing on repeat. One project, one payment, then right back to hunting for the next gig. And it has consequences. You can't hire. You can't invest in outbound. You can't really plan ahead in any capacity. Every decision feels like a gamble because there's nothing predictable coming in. And the agencies that actually stick around handle it differently. Sure, they might use a one-off project to get a foot in the door, but they don't stop there. They flip it into a retainer or a performance-based deal. Doing so is what gives you breathing room, predictable cash flow, and the chance to start looking beyond your next project. That's what lets you actually think about expansion instead of just survival. So how do you do that? The key is to stop treating automation like projects and start packaging them like systems. Think about the services you already sell or the ones you want to sell and ask yourself, is this something I just hand off once or is it something I can keep running as a service for them? If it's the latter, you've got a retainer offer. Take lead generation. This is the core of my business and it's the clearest example. I've been able to automate the entire outbound process for clients, scraping leads, enriching them, personalizing, sending, even managing replies. And by taking full control of that, I've become part of their business. Without me, they don't really have a pipeline anymore. And that's how you create real value, make yourself irreplaceable, and keep clients around for the long run. Content is another clear example. No brand survives on one video or one post. They need consistent output to stay relevant. If you step in and run that system from idea generation to drafting to distribution, you've positioned yourself as the engine behind their visibility. Without you, their presence stalls, and that's the kind of recurring value that locks in a retainer. And that's exactly where most agencies miss the mark. Instead of turning their work into systems like this, they keep charging $500 or $1,000 for a quick build. It probably feels good in a moment, I can imagine, but it caps your upside and keeps you stuck on the project treadmill. You hand something off, get paid once, and then you're right back at zero. The businesses that last take a different path. They stop selling tasks and start selling systems, and they price them accordingly. $3,000, $5,000, even $10,000 retainers, or they go performance-based and get paid for results. Either way, revenue compounds instead of resetting every month, and that's why this shift is so critical. One-offs keep you stuck chasing. Systems give you stability, predictability, and room to scale. Once you stop selling quick projects and start running systems, you notice something else. You naturally get better and faster at one type of problem, and that focus is where the real leverage kicks in. The fourth shift is moving from generalist to specialist. Most AI agencies start out saying, I'll automate anything for anyone, but staying broad keeps you stuck at the beginner level. The agencies that last, they pick a lane, they go deep and they become known or solving one thing better than anyone else. When you're doing scattered projects, you're not just starting from zero financially every month, you're starting from zero operationally too. New tools, new processes, new industries. You waste hours reconnecting systems, relearning workflows, re-explaining your value on every sales call. It's exhausting and it doesn't compound. But the moment you specialize, everything accelerates. You can reuse the same playbook. You already know the stack, you know the bottlenecks, you know the language. Fulfillment gets faster, sales calls get sharper, client results get better, and the flywheel only spins faster the deeper you go. So here's the question to ask yourself. What's the one process you can own end-to-end where every new client looks like the last? For some, that's outbound lead generation for agencies. For others, it's recruiting pipelines for staffing firms. Or it could be back-end operations for e-commerce stores. Pick the lane where you can deliver consistent wins, package it into a system, and run it across client after client. That's how you stop being a freelancer and start being the obvious choice. And once you stack results in one lane, you become the authority of that niche. Case studies pile up, referrals start flowing in naturally. You don't sound like every other AI agency out there. You sound like the partner who owns the problem in that industry. That authority gaps compounds over time, and it's exactly what distances you from the race to the bottom crowd. So this shift is about more than focus, it's about leverage. Generalists get lost in the noise, specialists build authority, speed, and scale. And the sooner you pick your lane, the sooner you can stop resetting and start compounding. And once you own that lane, you're no longer just an agency, you're the go-to partner in that space. Which brings us to the final shift. The fifth shift is moving from running an agency to building an organization. At this stage, you're no longer stuck with one-off projects. You've stacked retainers, picked your lane, and built authority. So the foundation is set. Now it's all about scaling. Because if everything still depends on you, you don't have a business. You've just built yourself another job, and there's a ceiling on how far you can go alone. But the moment you start systemizing delivery, pulling yourself out of day-to-day ops and bringing others in, you double, even triple your output without doubling your own hours. That's how you go from a good agency to a dominant player in your space. Now here's what that looks like in practice. You turn your best work into playbooks, step by step with templates, prompts, and checklists, so every client gets the same results no matter who's delivering it. You stop trying to carry the whole thing yourself. You bring in specialists to own lanes. One person handles fulfillment, another messages or manages onboarding, another runs reporting. Output goes up, your hours come down. Because revenue is predictable, you reinvest on purpose, set aside a fixed percentage each month for growth, outbound, inbound, authority. So your pipeline compounds whether you're in a room or not. And you build the internal systems that keep the business smooth without you hovering. So a 24-hour kickoff checklist, weekly health reports, monthly retention reviews, and a simple QBR so clients already know what's next. That should be the point where clients stop seeing you as a provider and start treating you as a long-term partner. You're not just solving one problem anymore. You've built an organization around solving it better, faster, and more reliably than anyone else in your niche. And that's the final shift. Once you reach this level, everything compounds, but none of these shifts work in isolation. So to bring this all together, let's zoom out. You've just seen the 5 shifts that separate the agencies that burn out from the ones that scale. Think of it as the foundation you need if you want a business that compounds instead of resets. Shift 1 was features to outcomes. Clients don't care about the tool, they care about the transformation. The minute you make that switch, your offer stops sounding like noise and starts actually landing. Shift 2 was borrowed demand to own demand. Job boards are crowded and disposable, so build your own pipeline and you control the timing, the framing, and the price. Shift 3 was from one-offs to systems. Quick builds might get you paid today, but retainers and performance deals are what lets you invest, plan, and grow tomorrow. Shift 4 was generalist to specialist. Broad agencies drown in complexity. Specialists compound results, authority, and speed until they own their own lane. And shift 5 was agency to organization. So stop being the operator in the weeds, turn delivery into playbooks, bring others in, and build something that scales beyond your own time. Put together, these aren't just 5 random moves. They are the progression every AI agency has to make if it wants to survive this wave. and more importantly, if it wants to build something that lasts. In the preview, I told you, most people starting right now are mistaking false projects for a real company. These 5 shifts are the difference. Get them wrong and you'll be gone in 6 months. Get them right and you'll have the foundation to scale far beyond what most agencies even imagine. So if you're ready to actually put these shifts into practice, the next step is simple. Inside Scaling System Society, you'll build the full machine from picking a niche and crafting your offer to automating cold email that books calls on autopilot to running sales calls and onboarding clients the right way. It's the exact system I use to scale past $100,000 a month, and the same one dozens of members are using to land their first clients right now. Click the link in the description and start building your pipeline. I'll see you guys inside.